Hello everyone, and welcome to our Genetec Tech Talk webinar on what's new in Security Center 5.6. My name is Derek Schaefer. I'm a technical training e-content specialist, and today I have with me Ankur and Chi, who will be helping with the questions and answers for today's webinar. If you do have any questions, please feel free to type them into the GoToWebinar console on the side, and one of them will get back to you with an answer as soon as they can. If there's any questions that we can't get to in the time that we have today, we're going to send you an email with your answer to your question, and as well, these questions will be posted on the Genetec forums as well. Now, one thing I want to point out, I do have a webcam going right now, so if you like seeing me on the webcam, then you can activate that now in the GoToWebinar console as well. And if you take a look on this screen, I've actually left a little area on the bottom right, just so you can dock the window down there if you want to go full screen on the slides. So that's something you can do. If webcams are not your thing, then go ahead and turn that off and I won't be offended. Thank you. Okay, so let's take a look at the agenda for today. So what we're going to do is first we're going to talk about the platform, which are any features that are common to both the video and access control side of things. So just anything that's general to Security Center. And in 5.6, there's a lot of the features are actually general to both. So you'll see in our list here, we do have quite a few things to cover here, such as new task folder organizations. We have alarm colors. You'll see the new password strength meter, which is pretty cool. A few little things that are in there as well, like the calendar interface changes. Just want to point that out, but it's kind of a smaller feature. Then we've got something larger, which are the Plan Manager enhancements, and I'm going to actually pull up Plan Manager and show that to you, as well as have that in the slides. And the slides will be available on the forums too. I'm going to put those on there as well. So you'll have these available, so you don't need to take notes. You can just watch the presentation and enjoy it while we're going. So next we're going to take a look at any changes in the Genetec Update Service, or GUS as we like to call it, and then go on and take a look at the security setup in the installation process, which is, there's a little bit of a rephrasing there, so I wanted to point that out. We have a new resiliency setting for Federation. The web client has undergone a bit of a change, so we have a role for that now, which is pretty neat. And then we're just going to touch on a few mobile server enhancements too. The next thing we're going to cover is anything in the Omnicast video surveillance side. There's not a lot in there for 5.6, but we're going to take a look at the four things. So changing the Genetec protocol and how you can add cameras. Auxiliary archiver recording is a new thing. We have a new transfer filter in the archive transfer function. And in the redirector, we can now control the bandwidth for live and playback video. So we'll take a look at that too. And we've got a few more things in the access control side of things. So we're going to take a look at LPR as a credential. We've got some new supported hardware I just want to point out. We're going to take a look at some of the functionality for the Access A1001 unit. And then we'll take a look, there's just a few things on scalability improvements, HID extension, we now have secure mode, and then we're going to take a look at how we can do batch firmware upgrades, or just firmware upgrades in general. You can do this for single units, and you can actually schedule things. It's pretty cool. And then, of course, at the end, we've got unused credential reporting. And one thing I've added on here is we can actually, we're going to cover SR1 since that was just released. So after we go through all those features, stick around because I'm going to talk about a few things that have been added with Service Release 1, which just came out. Now, as you can see, I've got these color-coded according to the various product colors. So if we take a look on the side here, I've got a little agenda list. That's going to be there in pretty much any slide you're taking a look at. So if you need to go back and watch the video later, which we're going to post on the Genetec YouTube channel, or the Genetec Training YouTube channel, and it's going to be on TIP as well. If you need to go back and watch this and you're looking for one particular feature, you can basically drag through and fast forward until you see that marker come down and it's wherever you need it to be. Right now I've got the platform ones listed. As we go into the Omnicast side and the Synergist side, you're going to see it change to reflect the agenda for those particular topics too. So that's something handy you might want to take a look at if you need to watch the video afterwards. And of course we have previous webinars on the YouTube channel, and they have those bars usually too. We've been doing that feature for a couple of years now. So you'll see that, and that's a handy little thing for you there. So moving on, I just want to address the elephant in the room, which is AutoView in terms of Security Center 5.6 GA. So while we're working on GA, there was some pretty major changes to the way AutoView functions behind the scenes, and we didn't want to, as they say, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, and we were still cooking that omelet. So basically in GA we didn't have AutoView available. So that's only available in Security Center 5.6 SR1. So if you've got 5.6 downloaded and you've got the GA version and you need to use AutoView, then just get rid of the old file. SR1 is out there now, so go grab SR1, and all the AutoView features are available. And you'll see at the end when I tacked on those SR1 slides, you'll see the new AutoView features, and there's a couple of things that that'll be your oh yeah moment where you'll understand why we had to push it a bit to SR1 in terms of functionality and features, and just in terms of the power of AutoView as well. So we'll see that at the end. That's your little teaser for the end there to get you to hang around. So let's get started taking a look at the platform. The first thing we're going to take a look at is our task folder organization. Now this is kind of cool. So this is a nice way to organize things. So if you have saved your public tasks or your private tasks, if you have your own ones that you like to use, maybe you have a lot of tasks that you have, and every time you go into there, it's hunting and pecking and searching for whichever one you want to use. So they've actually added folders in there now. So basically from the config tool or the security desk, you can go in from the home tab like we have here, go into either one, and then you can click on create folder, and you can actually create a folder from that. And as well, you can actually create it while you're saving the task as well. So there is a place where you can add it too. So basically all you need to do is enter the name of the folder, and then once you have the folder created, you'll see that the icon is there. It's a little bit different, and you can go ahead and just click and drag, and you can drop those your own tasks that you created right into the folder that you need. So of course this is like any folder structure. You can create new folders, you can create subfolders within those folders. So if you really have a lot of different tasks that you're using, you can go ahead and organize those pretty much any way that you want here. So this is just showing you the look when you're saving a task. So you can see the base that we have here is the home. So from the home you can create ones within it. As you can see within my monitoring task layouts, I've actually saved or created a new folder as well called Plan Manager Layouts, so I can really keep things detailed and organized as much as I need to. Now the only thing with this is if you create empty folders and you don't put anything in them, those will be erased when you log out. So it's only going to keep things well organized. It's only going to keep things that you need. But of course you can always create a task and you can place something in there as a placeholder if you need to. The task can be copied, so you can copy one and you can put it in multiple folders too. So of course when we're talking about public and private tasks, if you make private or folders in your private tasks, that's only going to be visible to you. That won't be visible to anybody else who's logging in and looking at their private tasks. And as I mentioned, you just need to right click on a folder or a task and you can get more information. If you have a task, you can copy it from your folder. You can actually rename it, you can delete it, or you can actually move it into a subfolder if you need to. And with the tasks in there, you'll always have your folders first. So looking at the list, you'll have your folders, and then you'll have your individual tasks that you created. and when you right click, even on the folders, when you're doing the sort, it's sorting on the tasks themselves. So those folders will always stay on the front there, which I think is a much more convenient way of doing things. Okay. So the next thing to take a look at is our alarm color assignment. This is a new thing we've added to alarms when you're creating them. So you can now have custom colors assigned to them. The color selector is in your advanced tab when you're actually setting up the alarm itself. And this color you assign is going to be used for any alarms that you have. So even the historical alarms will change to this new color. So you'll see previously we stopped at alarm sound. Now we have the new color here. You just click on the drop down and it's got a selector where you can choose one of the preset colors. And then when your alarm goes off, so as I set that to a blue, we can see I have an alarm that went off in my monitoring task, and the highlight bar is blue here. And if I'm looking in Plan Manager, I've got my pop-up for my alarm, and that's in that same blue color too. And as I mentioned, if you go into your reports, you're going to see that, but you're going to see the blue color. If you change that to like a green, that would change as well. So I just wanted to highlight that that functionality. Okay, so on the security side of things, there's something that we've added in just to as a reminder to people while they're setting up passwords on the system. So if you're in the config tool and there's any place where you need to set up a password, it's going to come up with a strength meter underneath that password. So taking a look at it here, I'm creating a user, I'm typing in the password for that user, and you can see underneath I've got a password meter. And it's pretty straightforward functionality. So if you've seen this on any kind of website or whatever, when you're typing in a password, and it usually prompts you for, put a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters, characters, numbers, things like that. And that's going to give you your strength rating based on how complex that password is, and of course the length too. And you've got the text field here, and you've also got a meter right here, a bar, so you can visually just see while you're typing until that fills up into the green. Then once you're there, you're good to go. So this is something that's just been added, a nice little visual function for you here. Okay, looking at our calendars, we've just basically changed the appearance here. So if you're using a specific schedule type, if you take a look at the schedule itself, you can see we've got the cancel and save buttons on the bottom, which I think used to just be a close button if I remember correctly. And everything else is pretty much the same, so you just go through and select your dates the exact same way that you used to. It's just visually the calendar looks a little bit nicer. And we actually have the cancel and the save in case you want to undo whatever you happen to have done to the calendar itself. And on top of that, we've also added just a quick visual reminder underneath any time range that you're working with. So under the time range, you can see the controls here. And previously that used to be in a little information pop-up, but now we've actually added the actual mouse clicks here. So left click to add, right click to remove, and hold if you want to pop up that little window to get specific minute precision there. So there's just, again, something visually that's a nice little addition here. Okay, so Plan Manager, there's two main things that we've added here. One is involving the video window as you pop it up. So what we're seeing here is I've got a camera, and when I click on the camera to actually view the camera tile to see what the camera is actually viewing, you'll see when you hover over it, now we have these three little icons on top here. So what these are is, before we would be able to move it, but if we clicked off somewhere, the tile itself would collapse. We wanted that to stay around if you need to move the map around or something like that. So basically clicking anywhere off of the tile will still keep the tile present. If you need to move it, you can use the 4 arrows right here and just click on that, hold it, and you can move the tile around. We've got a pin function here, so that will pin it either to the map or to your screen. So it's one or the other. So basically, if you have it pinned to the map, when you move the map, that tile is going to stay with it. If you pin it to the screen, then you can move the map around as much as you want, and you're going to see that tile stay exactly within your layout where you had placed it. So we'll see that in a second. I'll give you a little live demo of that in just a minute. But you'll see that it makes very much a lot of logical sense here. And of course, since clicking off of the window doesn't close it now, we'd actually put a close button right here. So the little X in the spot right there. And one thing as well is, in case you're pulling this up and you've got, a big map and you've got a high resolution monitor, and that tile comes up and it's a little teeny tiny tile and you're trying to watch video on it, you can actually click on the edges and drag that out and make the tile larger if you need to see things a little bit bigger on that particular one. And that will stay for as long as you have the tile present. So if you close it and then you bring that camera up again, it's going to go back to the default size. But just it's a nice little thing, so if you need to see something in more detail in that particular video image, you can blow that up a little bit and not have to worry about jumping back into another tile or pulling the camera up. One other thing that we've added, and that's if you have any zones, like intrusion zones, you can actually assign colors to the states for the zones. So when you're setting up your map, if you take a look at the zone itself, you can choose to show the states here. And this is just a basic virtual zone that I created. So I've got disarm, normal, active, and trouble. And from there, I can use the drop down and I can actually change what the color of the tile is going to be on the map when it's in whatever particular state that we have here. So in this particular example here, if it's armed, I've made it red. So armed is basically an active zone, so that goes red. And if I had disarmed it, then it's going to go that blue color. So these are, of course, the solid colors, and on the map itself, I've got it set to semi-transparent. So you're seeing it's not exactly, but it's the color relative to the map itself. So this is kind of something nice. When we went to the new plan manager, we kind of changed the way that we handle state changes and state displays. So this is a nice way of getting back that functionality that we had in terms of being able to change the color and of things, of objects based on their actual state. So we'll take a look at that right now. Let me just pull up my map. I'm in my monitoring task here. So here's my camera. So if I just click on that camera, it's going to take a minute, but it's just going to pull up my... Oh, it's not going to pull up the video. That's just a little network problem I'm having in here, I think. But the functionality should still be there. So basically, if I wanted to move this around, I can just click on the move button and I can drag it. So if it's kind of in the way and I still wanted to see the cone, I could bring it over here, and that way I could drag the map and I could still have it stuck relative to the camera where I want it to be. So if I go back here and I say, well, I always want to keep an eye on it when I'm looking at the map, I'm going to put it up here and I'm going to pin it onto the screen. So that means it doesn't care what I do on the map. I'm dragging the map around here, and it's still staying exactly where I left it on the actual screen itself, so basically relative to the tile. And then if I unpin it and I pin it back on the map, then it's going to move around with the map again. And once again, I mentioned if I hover over the sides, you'll see it changes to those two little arrows that you see whenever you need to resize something. So I can just click and drag that, and I can resize the window and move it around still and do things like that. So that's the new video functionality here. So I'm just going to close that, and I want to show you my zone here. So I have my zone, and I'm going to jump back over into the config tool, And I've got my 4th floor map up here. Let me just click on my zone, and then I can see from the identity here, if I do show states, by default it's got everything set to the same color that you assigned to the zone when you dropped it onto the map. So here I can actually change this. I'm going to set it to green for disarmed. Why mess with the classics? Let's go red for active. And we're not going to really see a trouble state, but I'll set that anyways. And then I can just hide those when I'm done with that. If I need to make any changes, I can show it again. And then what I'll do is I will jump back to my monitoring task here. And I'm going to change my layout. And bring up that zone. And I think I didn't save something or something here. I did not apply because I have my face over top of it. That was the issue right here. Okay. So now let's jump back to the monitoring task. And we can see that the zone is disarmed, so it's in a normal state, and I've got that green. And if I go back to my zone and I arm it, and now we can see it goes red here. So that is something that does need to be applied, as I just found out the hard way. So that's a nice little thing too, so we can easily see on the map exactly what's happening with a particular zone. Again, this can be done with, I did it with a virtual zone, you can do it with intrusion zones if you want to, and that's going to really help you out in terms of being able to see exactly what's happening on the map at any given time. So let's go back to the slides here. So the next thing I want to talk about is the updates to the Genetec Update Service, which is, we call that the GUS. So basically what we've changed here is we can use it to update the Security Center remotely, and we can also view the live status of all servers and workstations. The other thing we did add is communications are encrypted with the GUS as well. So just taking a look at a quick example here, we've got our servers and workstations. I can open up the GUS and I can see if there's any updates that are pending. If there's anything that was updated recently, I can see that right here. So I updated my SP16. I can push that through. And of course, if I go and check my servers themselves, I can see the state of them. So there's more than just pushing updates from here. This is a lot more functional now. It can do a lot more for you. So you can actually go in here and see the server states before you go and push the updates. So it really is becoming a much more robust tool in the end. Okay. So I want to move on into the installation setup. So when we're going through the installation steps, previously we had come to a security setup configuration part, and we've changed that just a little bit, but really it's just sort of kind of a wording thing, because we didn't feel that it was really representative of exactly what it was saying it was doing. So basically here, during the installation, we have the recommended settings, which before it used to come up with the checkboxes, and it would have one of them checked and one of them unchecked by default. And now we can just keep that recommended if we want to. So this is to trust the directory certificate on the first connection and to disable basic authentication for cameras. So those are the two that were checked and unchecked before. And if you do want to change them, you just need to set that to custom right here and hit next. And then basically we're taking a look, we're seeing what we had previously. The only thing is we did rename the first function. So now it's called always validate the directory certificate, which is a bit more representative of what it's doing. And before we had that called turn on directory authentication. So it's still the same thing. It's the exact same function. So If we put a check there, it's going to prompt the clients, and when you're setting up expansion servers, it's going to ask you to validate the certificate that's coming from the directory. So that's, if you leave that unchecked, it will accept the certificate as trusted, and which is the same thing as it used to do before. Okay, so when we're looking at federation, we've added a new function here which is called a resilient connection. So this is something that's nice to have if you have federations that are going over a WAN or a very large network, and you may be finding that the connection is not always 100% stable. So a resilient connection, what it's going to do is, instead of immediately counting that federation role as offline, it's going to wait for the number of seconds you set in the reconnection timeout before actually considering the role to be offline and having to try to do a resync and things like that. So you can set that between 1 and 60 seconds, and this resilient connection can only be used with federations to Security Center versions 5.6, or of course this is going to carry forward, so anything later as well. So any future versions of Security Center will be able to use this resilient connection. So as I mentioned, if there's a disconnection, it's going to wait as long as that timeout before showing that it's lost. It's going to give you warnings, of course, to tell you that it's having some trouble with the federation connection, but it's going to still maintain that connection, so it's not going to have to go through the whole resync process once the federation role comes back up online. Now, of course, having a buffer like this in there, it does take up some resources. So really, you only want to use this feature, you only want to turn on the resilient connection in your federation role if you know that this one is a role that that you're having trouble keeping a constant good connection with, because otherwise it will take up a little bit of resources for you. And if you put a longer reconnection timeout, of course, anything with a longer buffer, that's going to take a bit more time for you as well. So only use this really if you need to. You can turn it off by default and then check your federation connection. If you're seeing that it's dropping, then that might be something you want to turn on and just kind of play it by ear for that. So that's something good to keep your roles up and running though. So that's a nice new addition. Okay, so looking at the web client, what's really cool here is we've now added it as a role. It's role-based, so there's no plugins, there's no additional software required, and as well with the new web client, it's an HTML5 web service. So that means that you're not limited in your browser so much. Pretty much anything can run HTML5 at this point. The look is new, the look is nice, and you're not going to have to worry about that compatibility problems you had before. You can create multiple roles if you need to, if you want to have different connections. So if you want to have a local web client versus one for people who are logging in remotely, you could have multiple roles. You could create 2 for that. By default, it's using HTTP port 80, and for secure connections, it's port 443. And basically, we'll see how you can change those settings if you need to as well. That's, of course, configurable. And when we're looking at the new web client, we actually do support more streams. Per actual web client server that's being used for the role itself. And we're actually streaming the H.264 video directly from the archiver through the redirectors, of course. So there's a couple of new features as well with the web client. We've added visitor management, and you can actually save your camera layouts too. So taking a look at the actual role, if we want to create it, when we add an entity, when we're in the system task in the roles view, you do see now we have the web client server here. And so as I mentioned, you can have multiple ones if you want to, but of course we have to have those uniquely identified. So it has to have a different HTTPS port or a different web address, so one or the other. We'll see how to set those up in the next slide here. And of course, if we do have multiple roles set up, it would be a good idea to have them on separate expansion servers as well. So that way you can sort of distribute the load better and you're not having one server having to work on all the different web client connections here. So once we actually create the role, it's going to ask you what server you want to put it on. And we have a few general settings here. So the unlimited session time, if you turn that on, if the users wait for or are logged in for more than 12 hours, typically they will get kicked off. If they're inactive for 12 hours, that is. So if you turn on that unlimited session time, that's removing that 12-hour inactivity time. But of course, you know that could be not something you want to have for everybody. So that's another reason you could create separate roles. So you could have a role where you do have the unlimited session time for those people who may need it, and have another one that has the session time set to the 12 hours. Anonymous usage data reporting here. If you turn that on, it's going to send usage data to Genetec, to us. But basically, it's going to have all identifying factors completely removed. So basically, that's just to help us make this role better and make it a better service for you. And it's not being used to get any kind of data from your system itself. So that's something you can turn on if you want to help improve the actual role itself. So looking in the general settings, once you do have the role created, we do have that unlimited session time feature that I just mentioned, and by default we have the use default web ports on the server turned on, which is again using ports 80 and 443. And the web address here is what's going to be used to identify that particular role's web address. So you can see here in this example, it's HTTPS, and then of course the host name, whatever the server's host name is, the port, so that would be 443 by default usually, and then we've got the web address, which is here. So in our case, it would be Security Center with no space. And below that, we do have the communication settings. So this is where it will give us the actual URL. So as I mentioned before, here's Security Center as we had that set up. Our secure port of 443, I didn't change that yet. And we need to make sure that this is a unique URL for every role that we have. So again, we can change the port. So if we wanted to change it to a different port and still keep Security Center, we could do that. Or we could have each one using port 443, and we just change the actual name in the URL. So that's something you can do either way. A media gateway role is automatically created. You will see that in your config tool, and that's hosted on the same server as the web client server role. And there's a few extra things. You can take a look in the release notes for this. So if you're using the web client from Firefox or Edge browsers, we either need to have a valid SSL certificate installed, or if we're using the default one, the REST ports in the media gateway role must match the same ports as we're using in the web client role. So that's just something to bear in mind with either one of those browsers that you're using, but it's a fairly small modification that you'll have to make. Now looking at the actual role resources, like any standard role, we can change the server hosting it by bumping it up or down in the resources tab here, and we can add other servers for failover purposes like I've done here. So by default it's on my D. Schaefer server, and if I need to, it will fail over to my SV16. So looking at the actual web client itself, you can see it's got the new appearance here. So as I mentioned, there's a couple of new things. So we can save and load layouts in the monitoring section, and when we're in the access configuration section, we actually do have a tab for visitors that we can use now. Okay, so looking at the actual mobile server itself, there's just a few things that we've changed here. So basically, in terms of scalability, we can support 70% more streams on a single mobile server than we did before. And we've also added adaptive resolution scaling. So basically, this new functionality will take the stream from the camera and we'll try to use the native resolution when we're using a digital zoom. So that means when you're zooming in, it's not trying to blow it up, it's just grabbing that right out of the stream and sending it. So that's really great if you have really high resolution cameras and you don't want to lose any quality there. It's going to send that right through, and it's also not going to have to do that scaling, so it's actually going to go through a lot quicker too. So that's a nice new feature for the mobile server. Okay, so we're going to switch over and take a look at the Omnicast side of things now. We're going to start by talking about the Genetec protocol. So in the Genetec protocol, we've actually added the host name now that we can use. So previously we had IPv4 and IPv6, and now we can actually type in a specific host name to use for the Genetec protocol. So really you've got a lot more options here. It's very flexible. Another new feature is being able to manually record on the auxiliary archiver. So you can trigger this from the security desk. If you're viewing a camera in a tile, like I've got here, we can just right click on the record button. We can choose auxiliary archiver recording and choose the archiver that's been set up for that particular camera. So this is something that needs to be set up ahead of time. You can't just pick an archiver out of the blue. You do have to have an auxiliary archiver set up for this camera. And I'm showing it in the tile here, but we can do it from the widget as well. If we click on the recording button, we'll have those options too. And of course, this doesn't interrupt the native recording on the regular archiver. It's just going to do it on both. It's just basically triggering the auxiliary archiver to start recording for this particular camera. I mentioned we have a new archive transfer filter. So if we're setting up an archive transfer and when we're adding a transfer group, we can now filter on protected video. So I've got a transfer group that I open here under data. If I go to specific, you can see we now have this protected video that I can check here. So this is available on the backup or the duplicate archives functions. So you can do those for those two types of transfer groups. So basically, what you're doing is when you're protecting that video, usually you're specifying I want from this minute to this minute to be protected. But since we're doing a transfer of the actual archiver file, it's going to take the whole chunk that's allocated within that particular segment of time. So if your archives are set up to be in 20-minute chunks, and you want to protect 3 minutes of video within one of those, it's going to transfer that whole 20-minute section. That's basically just the way the archive transfer function works. And just to give you a heads up that's what's going on behind the scenes. Now, one thing we can do as well is when we're doing an incident investigation and you're adding video to it. So in this case, I've got my vandalism at front door that I've created to report an incident, and I'm starting to add cameras here. What I can do is I can actually check to protect all the video from deletion. And what that will also do is if I have an archive transfer function set up and I've got the data filter set to save protected video, it's going to include this video that's in the incident. So that's a nice way as well to back up and keep any incident related video. So that way, if you need it later on, if the cops show up and you need to show them that video, you're going to be sure that that's there and that's been moved to a secure location. Okay, this is one of the major functions for Omnicast for the video that we've added here. And this is the bandwidth controls for the redirectors. So previously we were able to do capacity controls in terms of the number of streams, but now we can actually control how much bandwidth is going through the redirector. So this is on a per redirector basis. So when you go into your media router and you go take a look in the properties and you have your list of redirectors there, you can actually go in and check the configuration for that, and you'll have this new bandwidth control section. So by default, it has a setting for to have the same number of kilobits per second for both live and playback video, but you can actually expand that here for more advanced features, and you can say that you want the live to be more than playback or vice versa, so it gives you more control over how much you want to set through. Or even in this case, you could set it to unlimited for live, and you want playback video to restrict it to a certain bandwidth to give it more of a priority. Now, of course, with bandwidth control, if you go over that, connections will be either refused or dropped based on the bandwidth that you have allowed. And this is basically working the same kind of way as we have PTZ controls. So it's going to use the user level to consider who will actually get video and who is going to be refused based on the bandwidth. If we have an auxiliary archiver set up for this, it's considered as an administrator, so it's going to be user level 1, so it's always going to get video if it's available. And if we're using federated cameras, it's going to either use the user that's requesting the video, or if it's from the system, it's going to use the user that's set up for the federation role itself. So again, it's going to use the user level for those user accounts. If the user does get a bandwidth limit exceeded message, it's not going to keep retrying, so they will have to try to view the video link again to try to get the video back if they need to see it. But of course, if there's a bandwidth limit there, then that's something where they might want to clear up with somebody else who's also viewing that video and arrange a better time to view it, kind of thing. So that's something that's nice for especially for network administrators to really get a more granular level of control over your archiver redirectors, their video redirectors on the system. Okay, so we're going to move into the Synergis section here. And of course, the first thing is our new LPR as a credential. This is something that's used with the new Sharp V cameras. So now what we can do is when you're adding a credential, see before we just had card and PIN, we can actually include a license plate here. So we do need to have software 10.4 for this, and in terms of the actual plate number, that can be duplicated. So you can have, if you have two people that share a car, you could have both of those card holders have the same plate number in their credentials. So it's okay to have duplicates there, and it will accept both. So this is basically going to operate the same way. So if you have the Sharp V at a gate and somebody pulls up, it's going to operate the same way as a credential in terms of giving an access granted or an access denied. Okay, so moving on to look at some of the new supported hardware. One of the major things is we've now added the SimonsVoss Smart Handle Digital Locking Cylinder and Padlock, the Smart Intego line. So that's 3 of them here. So these need to connect to a Mercury EP2500, 1501, or 1502 panel, which is of course connected to a Synergis Cloud Link or a Synergis Master Controller that's running software 10.4. So we can support on a single one of those Synergis units 256 Smart Intego locks. We can see the different specs here. You can find these in the release notes if you need to later on, excuse me, or in the What's New document. But you can see it does support a large number of different types of units here. Another addition is the Mercury MS Bridge. So what this is good for is if you're using Tyco Software House's iStar Pro series of hardware and that needs to be replaced, you can basically do a unit for unit replacement on the whole system. So of course we have to have software 10.4, and you can see the equivalencies here. So the iStar Pro controller, the GCM controller, you can replace that with the MS Bridge ICS board. And of course we have the controller boards and then the expansion boards here as well for inputs and outputs and auxiliary boards and things like that. So really this is sort of if you want to do a hardware switch out, but there's a lot less complication in terms of you don't need 3 boards to replace one, or these 2 go into one of this kind of thing. So it's a nice replacement in terms of that, and that is of course supported now. Now looking at another type of unit that they use in Synergis, the Axis A1001. What's happening with this now is the Synergis CloudLink is going to make all the decisions while the A1001 is online and connected. But if it goes offline, if the A1001 gets disconnected from the CloudLink, it's going to take over that decision-making process. So it really is we're using more of the intelligence on the A1001, and of course this means we can use more of the advanced access control features like security clearance, visitor escort, anti-passback, interlock, anything where we need to have the controllers talking to each other for more information kind of thing. So another nice thing with this is that the synchronization of the configuration for the readers and the inputs and outputs is now being handled. So you can do that from within Security Center, and it's going to synchronize that with the A1001, and we don't need to use the web page for that to make that kind of configuration anymore. Of course, there are requirements, software 10.4, as I'm liking to repeat. And we also need the software plugin 10.4, and the Axis firmware has to be on version 1.50. And again, we have this in the documents if you need it later on. All right, so a few scalability improvements in terms of the Access Manager. So now a single Access Manager on one server can support up to 2,048 readers. This is twice as many as the previous versions. Looking at the Mercury EP panels, we can now support up to 250,000 offline card holders per EP panel. And of course, like I like repeating, software 10.4 is required for this. So on the Synergis CloudLink or the Synergis Master Controller that the Mercury panel is connected to. And another nice thing is we are now supporting the STID USB encoders. So when you're adding card holders and you need to enroll a credential, and we can use the STID USB encoder to enroll the DesFire EV1 cards. So that's something that you'll see it from the pop-up that you can select that from the card holder management task. So that's something nice that's been added to help improve as well. Okay, so in the HID extension, we've now added a secure mode. So taking a look at while we're creating a unit, we can actually put a check mark here and use secure mode. And what this is doing is it's enabling communication using the Vertex protocol, using only the Vertex protocol. So that means the other channels are no longer needed, and that can be disabled, which makes your connections to your HID units much more secure. So you can turn off your FTP, your Telnet, your SSH connection, which we needed to have enabled before. Now, if you're upgrading and you previously had units that were enrolled and had that enabled, it's going to have the secure mode feature off by default. If you're adding new units, it's going to turn this on for the new units to make things more secure. So that's a really great new feature with the HID extension. Now, of course, as well, if we're doing this, we need to use the admin account on the unit. Previously, we're using the root account. So if we do upgrade, it's going and we enable that secure mode, it's going to prompt us, like we see here, that it's going to want to use the admin account instead. So it'll change it to admin and ask us for the admin password. If you want to see which units are in secure mode, you can pull that up from the hardware inventory report. And you're going to need a minimum firmware on your HID units, as we see here. Okay, so firmware upgrades. We can now do this. We can schedule it, or we can do them in a batch from the config tool. So basically, this is something we can do on units of the same type. So I can't do a mix of something like if I have a Synergis CloudLink and I have an HID unit, I can't batch those together. It has to be, I'm going to do all my Synergis CloudLinks first, and then I'll do all my HID units next, kind of thing. We can do this on Synergis CloudLink or Synergis Master Control units, and we can actually send the updates to the Mercury EP controllers as well. And we can do it on the HID Edge Evo and Vertex Evo units with their interface panels too. So the HID legacy units are not supported, and what we need to make sure is when we're actually setting this up, the firmware file that we're specifying, it's getting transferred from the client to the directory and then to the access manager, and then at the time is distributed to the units. So we need to really make sure that that access manager is online while we're setting this up. Otherwise, the firmware file itself won't get through, and then we'll run into trouble here. So looking at it on a single unit, you can just go ahead and you can see the upgrade button right here, and when you click on that, it'll ask you for the information you need, like the firmware file. And if you want to do it for a batch of units, you do that from the hardware inventory task. So you can basically select your access manager, generate the report to see the list of units, and then you can select multiple units again like we usually do in Security Center. You can use the shift key to go for the first one, hit shift, and select all the ones in between. Or you can use the control key to sort of pick and choose which ones you want to pick. And then right on the bottom, you're going to see that upgrade firmware button right there. So once you choose it, this is where you have the option where you can delay the upgrade until a specific date and time. So if you want to wait till the doors are or the units are not going to be in use, a low traffic time, you can delay that. Because of course during a firmware upgrade there's some disruption there while it restarts the units, and as well you can choose to send it to the boards as well if you want to. So then it's just a matter of clicking on upgrade, and that will transfer the file to the access manager and schedule that for you. Taking a look at doing this in a batch, the hardware inventory report is not an active updating report, so once you kick that off, you're going to need to refresh the report to actually see the upgrade status. But it will tell you that. You might have to right click and show the actual column itself, but it will tell you the status, whether it's scheduled, if there's no upgrade done, or if there's a problem and it's failed the firmware upgrade. In terms of volume, we can do 10 at a time. So if you queue up, let's say 15 units, it's going to do the first 10. As it finishes the upgrade on a particular unit, it will add one of those remaining 5 in there, basically, and keep the queue going until it's done. But it will be able to do 10 at a time. Okay, so unused credential reporting has changed a little bit in 5.6. It's not a significant change, but basically if you had access granted or access denied events before, that would flag the credential as in use. Now what we've done is we've said, okay, if it's access denied, we're not going to count that. So it's still not considered in use because it wasn't actually used on a valid transaction, basically. So basically when you run your report now, you'll be able to see realistically which credentials are really in use and actually being used on doors and getting access granted events. And of course this can be set up when you're doing a credential configuration report, and also in the credential management task. So you'll see we have the new filter for unused credentials, and you can say how long you want to take a look for. And from the credential management task, you can actually select multiple ones and deactivate them from here too. So that's a new feature here. Again, we can use the shift control click. You can do a group of them at the same time. So I actually have both of these selected at the same time, and I just right clicked and chose deactivate. Okay, so I've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to go through SR1 pretty quick just to point out some new things that have been added. And we're going to leave the webinar active for about 10 minutes once I'm finished with this, just in case there's any remaining questions that we need to answer here. So in terms of the Omnicast video surveillance side, one of the new things is archive consolidation. So from within the advanced settings for your archiver, you can turn on this enable archive consolidation. And what this basically does is if you have an archiver role that has a failover server or two, basically once it's been running in failover mode and it switches back over to the main server, it's going to copy those archives over onto the main server to sort of keep them all in one place. So that way we're not having video broken up on two different machines, as the case may be. By default, this is done every hour. There is a way to switch that if you need to. Basically, what this is doing is creating an archive transfer behind the scenes that is hidden by default. If you want to see that transfer and change the amount of time or the frequency that it's checking for archives on a failover server, you can do that. Just go in the admin guide or hit F1 and go into the help and look up this feature. And there's a few simple steps that you just need to run to enable being able to view that archive transfer, and then you can just make any changes you need to from there. Another thing that we have is we have a manual video recording activity trail. So these are two types of events that were not being kept in the activity trails before. So basically it's the recording started and the recording stopped. So now if you go in your system task, if you go into the general settings and you take a look at activity trails, expanding video, you're going to see the two new features here, recording started and recording stopped manually. So that's something that's nice to see and might be helpful for administrators too. Just a couple of general video enhancements as well that I wanted to point out. When we're using the Genetec video player, if you have a G64X file, you can now actually view 64 streams. So previously we were more limited than that, but now if you have the bandwidth or the power to do so, you can view all 64 streams in the viewer if you need to. We've got a few new supported video units, some new manufacturer support for H.265 and IPv6, and some additional video compression and codecs that are supported for a few manufacturers as well. So that's something you can look at in the again in the release notes if you want more details on which particular manufacturers have this added. You can take a look in there, but for the sake of time, I just wanted to point that out. Access control, you can see there was a fair number of features in 5.6 GA. SR1, there wasn't a lot to add there, just the Honeywell Galaxy Flex 100 intrusion panel support. That's pretty much it. We need firmware version 3.37 on the Flex 100 to be able to support this in Synergis. And of course our main things is AutoView. So AutoView again is enabled in SR1. And one of the main things is the integrated AutoView FreeFlow plugin. So this is basically your parking management. You can configure that as part of the LPR Manager role. It's now included in the LPR Manager. Before it was a plugin, and now you just need to enable it from here, and you've got all your settings like your tolerance threshold and your capacity threshold, things like that. So and as well in terms of using FreeFlow and using the parking management, we can now create parking rules and parking zones. So those two types of entities have been added too, and those are configurable from the config tool. So like here we have our rule information, like our convenience time and our grace period, which is used as part of FreeFlow. And of course, from within the security desk, we have, we can see the zone status from within there, and we have other free flow reports that can be viewed from within the security desk. Another thing is that we've added with the AutoView is something called past read matching, and basically what this is a way to check if anything that's been added to a hot list was previously seen before. So this is a nice little thing where if you add a plate to a hot list, it's going to go back and take a look over a certain period of time and see like, oh, well, you just added it today, but this guy was in violation yesterday. We see him from this hot list that was actually read yesterday, and we'll let you know in the matching process. So once you're setting that up, you do that in the matching section of your LPR Manager role, and then you just basically need to choose the hot list that you want to have this available for. And then you can choose how far back to take a look for. So right now we have a default set to 1 hour. If you're taking a look at the hits, it actually will tell you too that this is something that's been post-matched, so that's been matched after the fact, after it's been added to the hot list. So that's a nice new function, and a nice way of sort of being more accountable and more taking a look at what's happened in the past and staying on top of things. This is really something that behind the scenes is kind of huge. We've decoupled the reads and hits from the camera images themselves. So if we're taking a look in the actual LPR Manager resources, what we need to do now is specify which archiver we're going to use, because the archiver is now handling all of those images. So all of them. So the wheel imaging, the context camera, and the plate image, they're all being stored in the archiver. Now, what this does to the AutoView system is it really frees up your SQL Express database that you're using for AutoView to be really used only for the reads and hits. And based on that, we can use we can now store about 6 million reads on there now on the SQL Express database. So this is like around 25 to 30 times more than we previously could store on there. This also makes the reporting faster because it's not having to deal with all that other information, and the archiver is handling all the video there. So one thing in terms of best practices is we would recommend using a separate archiver role that's not managing video units. So if you do have an archiver that's managing a bunch of cameras and recording video from them, set up another archiver role and use that for your AutoView, for your LPR Manager. So that's it for the main content here. I just want to give you a couple of places to go for additional help. Of course, the first one is the Technical Information Site, or as we call it, TIP. And from within there, you can go in and you can see manuals, KB articles, and of course, if you want to, you can view all videos. If you just click on all videos from the home page, it's going to filter that for you and give you everything that we have here. So the webinar that we're recording now, that's going to be on there. I'm going to try to put that up by tomorrow, and that'll be on TIP, and it will also be on our YouTube channel. So the Janitech training department has its own YouTube channel, and we're always putting things on there either from ourselves or we've gotten submissions from support. The support guys have been putting videos together that are really great, like our recent one on the Mercury security configuration here. So you can view that from excuse me, a web browser. You can get to it from your mobile device as well if you need to. So that's always at your fingertips, and if you need to go back and watch a webinar like this one, you'll find that on there as well. And again, I'm going to try to have this up by tomorrow afternoon, barring any kind of delays. So I'm going to leave the session open for additional questions for about another 10 minutes or so. So we'll leave it open till about 12:15 Eastern Time. And if you have anything else, please type them in the question box, and Anchor and Chi and I will take a look there and get you any answers that you need. And if there's anything we can't get to in that time, or there's something that we need to maybe do a little bit more research on, we'll take a look at that, and we've got all your email addresses, so we'll send you an email with your specific answer for that. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching. If you're leaving us now, then thank you very much for coming. Excuse me. I'd like to thank Ankur and Chi for helping out with the questions today. And if you have any questions or comments, after you close the session, it's going to come up with a brief survey. Please type them in. I read every single one, and I really appreciate any feedback that you can give us on the webinar today, or on the Genetec Tech Talk webinar series in general. So thank you again very much, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you.